Welcome to Behind the Muscle podcast. Today's guest is an NPC bodybuilder. Today's guest is Brandon Barrow. Brandon, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Quentin. Appreciate you having me on, man.
For sure, Brandon. So a couple quick questions here. I like to kind of ask all my guests just to kind of get the conversation going. The first one is, who are a few of your favorite bodybuilders of all time?
So of all time, obviously my first one's going to be a lot of, the cliches. Arnold. Growing up, he was my first inspiration, but all time is going to be Dorian. When I saw your picture, I was, obviously I like that. So Dorian's my number one. I love his intensity, the rawness, that nitty gritty. He's my favorite. And then more modern day was Luke. Luke Sando was my favorite. So he instilled a lot of things in me. Learned a lot from him. Miss that guy.
Yeah, very cool, man. Now, when did you once you got into bodybuilding and stuff, or maybe it was before bodybuilding, but when was the first time that you kind of came across Dorian Yates or saw his picture, and how did you kind of get exposed to him in terms of maybe like his mindset, his training? Talk about that for a minute, if you don't mind.
So when I was in, I guess it's early, so in high school, so I had all the magazines. I still have a stack of magazines at my mom's house, and I kept them all. So there was a number of articles about him in there. So that's where I really learned about him. And then when the internet came along, when I was able to watch his training footage, is really when I became a big fan of him. Blood and Guts is one of my favorite things to watch. Just to him and his training partners getting after it. That's what I love for sure. Very
cool, man. All right. So tell us, Brandon, at what age did you start lifting weights? And then why did you start lifting weights at that age?
So when I was 11 years old, I worked with my grandpa all summer long and made about $130. My mom asked me what I wanted to do with that money. And I told her I wanted to buy a weight bench, and she was very confused. So that's when I bought my first weight bench. And why I did that was watching Arnold, Sly, Jean-Claude Van Damme. Those were my inspiration when I was younger. So when I was like 7, I started doing my push-ups, sit-ups, and just doing stuff like that when I was young. Just didn't know what I was doing, just trying to do something. So I bought that when I was 11, didn't know what I was doing. My mom's boyfriend at the time tried to show me. He had no idea what he was doing. So when I was 13, internet came along. That's when I really started to learn. Also bought Arnold's Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding, and that's where I learned a lot of my stuff from the beginning. So 13 is when I started very seriously, and then haven't stopped since then.
Awesome, man. So I kind of like to use that last question, Brandon, just to kind of transition into my guest's backstory. So if you don't mind just talking a little bit about like where you grew up, what kind of shaped your younger years? Did you play sports? Any influences in your life when you were younger in terms of maybe coaches, teachers, things like that, up to about high school, and then we'll transition from there.
Okay. So I grew up in a very small town, middle of nowhere. I grew up on a dirt road. Only thing to do for fun was shoot guns, and ride four-wheelers. So that's where I grew up, and I started playing sports very young age of baseball, basketball, flag football, basically for my mom to keep me busy because it was just me and her. So it kept me busy. She supported everything that I did. And then when I got into high school, I only focused on football and working out because my passion was already in the gym and I love playing football. So that's where I had those two and I focused on them all through high school. And what else? What was the other part of the question?
Just like, were there any coaches, any teachers, any adults that were, when you were younger, that kind of influenced you or were maybe positive role models or not per se?
My most positive when I was younger would have been my grandpa. He's the first one that gave me one of those old plastic dumbbells where the concrete would fall out of them. Showed me a couple things. He's one that I admired, looked up to. He was one of the hardest workers that I knew. So that was my grandpa. Was definitely my number one. And then growing up in high school was my football coaches. They helped me a lot in terms of just, practicing discipline, hard work, and helped instill that in me as well. Those are my biggest role models for sure. And my mom helped me, with everything. She did everything she could for me. So she's definitely my number one supporter for sure.
What position or positions did you play in football, Brandon?
So again, small school. So played both sides. I was a buck 90. So I was a linebacker, but I was also a left guard because I had been working out and I was the strongest on the team. I was running back, but unfortunately injuries happened. So then I got put on the line. So it was cool. I mean, we had fun. But that's what the positions that I played. I was running back, would have been fun, but ended up playing left guard just because that's what we had to do.
Cool. What were academics like for you when you were younger? Did you care about those or not so much?
Yes and no. I mean, I had good grades. I could have done better, but I mean, definitely wasn't something I aspired. I mean, I did all my studying I need to do. I graduated 3.5 GPA. So I mean, it was okay. I mean, I could have done better, put it that way. More of my focus was just, sports, football, and hang out with friends in high school.
Yeah, that sounds pretty typical, right?
Yeah.
So like when you were kind of in high school, that's when most of us start thinking about like maybe what we're going to do after we graduate, maybe like a career, job. Most of us usually have some sort of idea. Just talk about what were some of those ideas that you had in your mind in terms of like maybe a job or a career? And then once you graduate high school, did you pursue that? Did you go to college? How did life kind of unfold once you graduated high school?
When I was young, I think I wanted to be a cop, how the normal kid want to be a cop. But then as I got into it, with fitness and whatnot, high school, I knew I wanted to be a personal trainer, but I knew that where I was, I could not do that. It's just, there's no fitness atmosphere at all. I had a one small hole in the wall gym that I had everything that I needed, but that's all that was there. So I went to Bridgewater College in Virginia as well. That's where I went and got my bachelor's in health and exercise science and a minor in nutrition and wellness. So that's where I went to school, graduated from there, moved to Northern Virginia where I am now, because I know this area is a more wealthy area and there are, successful gyms in the area. So I started working at a Lifetime, and I was personal trainer there for years. That's kind of, where I started, my career per se.
So, what was your college experience like? Because I got a bachelor's degree in exercise science. For you, what was kind of like your college experience in terms of getting that education? You looking back, do you feel like it's something that was really beneficial, or was it maybe not necessarily exactly what you thought it was going to be? What are your thoughts on college in terms of the actual education that you got?
It was beneficial, obviously, 100%. I didn't know everything, obviously, but I knew a good bit before I went to college because I literally researched this stuff all the time. I just love nutrition. I love bodybuilding. I love working out. With that being said, if I go back in time, I probably would not have went to college. With what I'm doing now and doing well, I don't need my college degree. Granted, yes, I did learn a lot from there, but I still continue my education. So I like my college experience, but I don't like my college debt. I don't think anybody does.
Yeah, for sure, man. I kind of right with you, like owning a gym myself and doing the personal training stuff. Looking back, it's like, college is what it is. And obviously for some professions, that's important. But I mean, I've walked in before I, owned my own gym. It's like, I've walked into all kinds of different gyms and they wouldn't hire me because I didn't have a personal training certification. I'm like, well, I've got a bachelor's degree in exercise science, but I don't have a certification. For a long time, I refused to get one because I thought it was stupid. I was like, I spent thousands of dollars to get a 4-year degree, and somebody can go online, spend $700 and get a personal training certification, and they're going to get the job, and I'm not. So I was a hard head. Now I kind of realize the importance of it in terms of just like, insurance wise and all that. But
Absolutely.
man, like looking back, it's definitely something where it's like, I wish I would have had a little bit more guidance in terms of going to college. Right.
That was my big thing because I was the first person in my family to go to college. So in school, everybody, that's the norm. Hey, where'd you apply to? Where'd you apply to? So I kind of felt like this is my next step I have to do. Now, hindsight being 2020, I might have went a different path, but that was like the norm. But I mean, I don't regret it by any means. I don't regret anything. But hindsight being 2020, would have done things a little differently.
Yeah, for sure. I'm right with you. So let's talk about actually getting into competitive bodybuilding. When did you first compete? How did that first show go for you? Just kind of start unpacking that story for us, if you don't mind.
Yep. So in my first show in college, I had just turned 21. You imagine how that was. I had a roommate. My roommates were a bunch of college, with a bunch of football players. So that was a fun experience. But did my first show then. It was an NGA show. So it was a tested show. I got third place. To be honest, I was very disappointed because I just thought you know how it goes. But it just made fuel my fire just even more for the sport. So that was my first show, NGA. Second show I did was also NGA, and I got third there. And after that, I was self-coached. After that, I knew I could be better. So then I got a coach. And then after that, I went pro. My next show in the NGA. Then my next show went pro in the WNBF, because there's like 17 different pro organizations. So I was in the national organizations for a while until I realized that, I want more out of this, because not speaking negative at all about natural bodybuilding, but being a natural pro is not the same at all as being an IFBB pro. It's not even the same. So that's when 2018, I did my first NPC show and I won the overall there. That's when I went to the the Pittsburgh Pro AM, did that show, and I got humbled very quickly. So after that, I changed coaches up. I'm now currently with Andrew Vu. I've been with him for a while. And since then, I placed third at 2019 USA's behind Nick Walker and Zach Marble. And then 2020, I did USA's and nationals. I got fifth in nationals and sixth at USA's. So that's the most of my competition history.
Yeah. So the last time you competed was in 2020 then?
2020, yep, okay. That December.
Cool. So we're going to come back to that. Now, I want to get into the coaching talk just a little bit, because it's kind of I don't know if it's a hot topic, but it's definitely something, for some of the viewers or listeners, they're getting into bodybuilding. It's something I like to, if it comes up, I like to ask, my guests, because I think, obviously somebody in your position, the IFBB pros that I bring on the podcast, like, people look up to you guys, whether you know that or not. People look up to you. They're going to respect what you have to say. Now, what are your thoughts? What are your opinions on getting a coach when you're getting into competitive bodybuilding? Do you think that somebody should maybe get a coach right away? Do you think they should maybe try a couple competitions on their own? What's your take on that? And then what are your suggestions for finding the right coach for an individual?
So in my opinion, if somebody wants to compete and do the best they can, they absolutely need a coach. I can speak from experience, because when I coached myself for my first two shows, I could have done so much better. I just did not have the guidance. I should have done things way differently, but I didn't know that, and I learned that the hard way. And if I would have had a coach, then I would have done much better regardless. And if someone's coming up and they want to do the best, I would definitely recommend a coach. Now, sometimes with younger kids or people in general, they might not have the finances for it. But in today's day and time, you have your high-end coaches that are going to be very, very expensive. Then you have your low ends that are going to be maybe not as expensive. So at the same time, you get what you pay for. The quality of the coaching might not be as well, but you have some guidance. And to piggyback off of that, you don't want to be with someone that is not knowledgeable. Then you want to see what their clients look like. How are they placing in shows? How do they look? Then have a conversation with that coach. Ask them questions that you want to know before signing up with them. It's basically just getting as much data as possible to make that decision. And then the decision is going to be if you're financially stable to do that. And bodybuilding is a very expensive hobby. So in my opinion, don't be financially stable. That way the stress is as less as possible, because the more stress you have in this sport or in anything, it's going to hinder progress and everything. So just make sure financially, you're good, but definitely recommend you need that guidance, because it's not going to do anything but help you.
Right. So Andrew Vu, you said your coach. Why did you personally choose to go with him? And then how has he kind of like, maybe taking you to another level, whether that's nutrition, whether that's training, whether that's just bodybuilding overall? Like, how has he kind of helped you evolve as an athlete, as a bodybuilder? What's your take on Andrew?
Yeah, so my first NPC show, I was still with my coach I did with my natural competitions. Great coach, really. I was with him for five or so years, but he's not have the knowledge that you need at that level. So I've been following Andrew, followed Hunter because Hunter Labrada was with him at that same time. And I got a few other guys that they all looked good. They were all came in the shows conditioned. They made really, really good progress. So I liked his results that he made. And I inquired with a couple of different coaches, and he was the one that was immediately responded back to me. I reached out to some other higher end coaches as well, and they took one to like 2 weeks to get back to me. I'm just like, this is not. So that's when I decided to go with Andrew, and he's been great. He's the biggest thing with Andrew is just pushing me to get all this food in. When I first started with him, my show in 2018, the last show before him, I was 213. 2018, it's 2019. So that was May of 2018. July of 2019, I was 238 on stage. So you can see I put a good amount of size on in that short amount of time. And that was with him, critiquing my training, helping me train smarter, and just the amount of food that I had to eat to do that. I would not have done that unless somebody was telling me, hey, get all your food in. You want to get to this point, this is what you have to do. So a big thing was just the accountability aspect of that, and trial and error sources with that. But Andrew's been great.
So talk about the training. Then you said that he kind of tweaked your training or helped you kind of take it to the next level. What does that kind of look like? How did you kind of start off training, maybe when you were a natural, and then how has your training evolved over the last several years?
So I've always been a numbers guy, even from high school. I was, top of the board at my high school for lifting, bench, squat, deadlift, and that was always a thing for me. So I guess you could say it was like an ego thing. So I love lifting heavy weight, but I'm not a powerlifter. I'm a bodybuilder. So it's not all about how much you lift. It's about how you lift. So it took me a long time to get out of that in terms of really slowing down the movements, feeling the muscles contract, squeezing versus just gripping and ripping everything that I did. I was doing flat barbell bench press, which I haven't done now almost over a year, just because that's a career-ending injury, and I was repping out over 500 pounds, and it's just not smart for what I want to do. So he really made me take a step back and do that with my training, and that's when my physique really changed, because I was actually working out the way it's supposed to versus just trying to beat what weight I did last week. So I still try to do that, but with much, much better form and much more control. And that's what's really helped, like I said, my physique to change a lot. So that's the biggest change that I've made training wise. And now from here on out, I'm not training any other kind of way.
Now, are you kind of like a low volume type guy where you kind of have that top set, or is it more high volume? What does kind of the volume look like, Brandon?
So I used to be, which is another Dorian thing. So I practiced that where, build up until that heavy set and go all out on that last set. So, and the volume was lower then. And last August, so I had hernia surgery last May. So when I recovered from that, I work out at the gym down here. It's called the Shop Gym. That's my second home. And I got a trainer to train me, because for what I want to do and when I work out, no one else works out then. And I can't get to the level that I want to without having someone push me. So I started training with him, which at the same time, he instilled the kind of methods that Andrew wanted, where it's very, very methodical training, slow, controlled, really focusing on the squeeze and tempo work. And one of the big changes from my old training to him was we increased the volume probably by double. We're doing 5 and 6 sets of 12 on mostly all exercises. And because I have a good amount of size. So now the main thing is etching out the detail and really building that dense muscle. And the way we did that was just increase volume and just really, really hammered. And my body, since August, my physique has changed tremendously. And I credit that a lot to that as well.
I'm pretty confident you're probably familiar with Justin Shire, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
So is it kind of the way that he trains for just some of the listeners or viewers, if they're familiar with him, or is it a little bit different than how he trains?
Very similar. So my trainer, his name is Dwayne Turner, unknown trainer on IG. So he's the one that took over my training. And you could say that So he does a lot of tempo training, same as Justin. So Justin's all about, you know, a 3-second negative, 2-second squeeze. And that's very similar to how Dwayne has my programming. And people ask me like, hey, who do you recommend following for training advice? And I'm always going to recommend Justin, because Justin is one of the most methodical training bodybuilders right now. And he was also a really good dude. I competed with him in 2020 at nationals. He was heavyweight. I was super. Met him out there. He really good dude. Yes, one of the best in terms of form bodybuilders right now, definitely Justin.
Yeah. He came on the podcast before nationals, and he was, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 weeks out, so he's kind of out of it, but super cool dude. And you can kind of just see through his through the podcast and you know, through his training videos and stuff like that, he's definitely seems like a pretty mellow, chill guy, and pretty cool, which is kind of a breath of fresh air in the bodybuilding world. What's kind of your current split right now, Brandon? And then what are some of the areas of your physique that you're really trying to bring up, focus on before you step on stage again?
Yeah, so current split right now is Monday is my back day. One of my back days is non-back bearing, mostly machine. So Monday back, Tuesday legs, quad dominant. Wednesday is chest and light shoulders at the end. Thursday is back, and this is where I'll have like my rack pulls or T-bar row, some of the, like a heavier back bearing movement. Friday is then shoulders and arms, and then Saturday is legs with light chest, because I need to hit my chest twice, because that's one part I'm trying to build up. So chest and then legs, more of a hamstring dominant. So into the next question, my chest, which is definitely my upper, which we've brought up a lot. My biceps need to be bigger in relation to my shoulders, but I'm having some tendonitis issues in my forearm, so I haven't been able to train my biceps in about 12 weeks. So, you know, other than that, everything's been going great, and it's almost to where I can again, but that's one of my parts I need to bring up, which biceps, chest, and then my back was another one, which we've brought that one up a really good bit. So I'm really happy with the progress so far. I'm in a really good spot.
Excellent, man. So I want to talk about the eating a little bit, because you said that's something that Andrew really challenged you with, and that's how you kind of put on a lot of size. And as you listen to professional bodybuilders or top NPC athletes, it's food, right? So talk about you know, maybe just what like off season looks like in terms of food. You know, are there specific foods that kind of sit well with your digestion? What are they? Just maybe talk a little bit about that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so foods for me, we'll talk about the amounts. So this past off season, the peak was around 6,500, give or take, and that was through 7 meals. So all of my meals were basically whole food, except my post workout, and then I had my 7th shake, and I'll get up the middle of the night for that, and it would just be a protein with peanut butter this past time. So we get up around 3 a.m., hit that bag, get back in bed. So I was doing 7 meals a day, and the foods that digested the best for me are regular chicken and rice. But we were pushing food pretty heavy. So I was doing 10 ounces of meat per meal. One of them was 12 ounces of meat per meal. And I got to a point to where my body was just like, no, we're good. So I had some bad digestion issues, just waking up, gagging for no reason, like dry heaving. So my body was basically telling me like, hey, we need to rest. So we cut back the food for like 4 to 8 weeks. After that, I felt amazing. Digestion was good, and we went from there. So sometimes it is about pushing the food, but you also have to listen to your body, because after a while, when you push, you will get some kickback, especially with the digestion and that high amount of food. So that was the only problem we came across. Other than that, I mean, for food sources, I eat the same thing every day. We don't, he doesn't change up anything. So oats, always my breakfast with my eggs, chicken and rice, beef and shrimp with my rice. No potatoes now. It's basically all rice is my carbs, all rice, other than my oatmeal, and a carb blend as well for my intra. And before bed right now, yeah, I'm doing also 8 ounces of beef with 6 egg whites, another cup of rice. Yeah, that's about the gist of it, but it's a lot of food, but that's what it takes.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely sounds like a bodybuilding eating regimen to me, you know, so chicken and rice, man. So let's talk about, so I want to take a step back. So you've competed, sounds like a couple times on the national stage. Now talk about, you said you went to Pittsburgh and you got humbled, right? That's kind of what you said. What was that experience like for you? You know, cause that's obviously a very competitive, you know, competition. What was that like for you to get humbled or maybe just have your eyes opened? What did that do for you? And then just talk about competing on the national stage after that Pittsburgh experience. What was that like for you? Did that just kind of add fuel to the fire? Just discuss that for a minute, if you don't mind.
Yes. So when I competed in 2018, so I did my first show, which was 2 weeks before the Pittsburgh. I won it overall there. It was a very low quality show. So I felt good winning that first NPC show. Then I knew going up to the NPC Pittsburgh that the national judges were going to be there. That's who I want to get in front of and just get feedback. And I got up there and I realized that, because I've always kind of been on the big fish in a small pool. And I realized really quick that I am now I'm a small fish in a big pond. So seeing that, you know, because I got sixth there, and I think Josh Holiday won. I was a heavyweight then. I think Josh Holiday won that class. He looked amazing. And then I just the peak didn't go well, watered out, didn't look good at all. So like I said, doing that probably helped me because, like I said, it humbled me and it made me hungry, because when that happened, I knew I had a lot to change. I knew I had to change coaches. This was a necessity. And I was just motivated because I knew that I was going to come back next year and it was be completely different. And it was. I didn't even do another show in terms of like a local show. We and Andrew went right into USA's, and it went really well. Like I said, I got third behind, you know, Nick and Zach. They're both obviously pros now. But from there, I did well, and I wasn't happy. I wasn't unhappy with my placing. And I got third my first national show. I was ecstatic. So then from there, I just knew what I had to do to, you know, get better. And from there, I've just been working on that. And then I think so that was 2019, 2020, because then after that, you had the whole pandemic, everything went crazy. And then in 2020, got back on stage. Didn't have that good of an off season there because I wasn't with Andrew that off season. And that's when I realized that I have to stay with Andrew in all season if I want to get to where I want to be. So yeah, I haven't left Andrew since then.
What's now you mentioned hernia surgery. Are you okay talking about that, or would you prefer not to talk about that?
Absolutely, I'm good.
Okay. So why don't you talk about that? Because that seems to be something that, you know, a lot of bodybuilding athletes go through. So when did you have that surgery? Talk about like how, you know, how did you kind of know that you needed to have the surgery? Was that a reason why you didn't compete in 2021? Just talk about that if you don't mind.
Yes. So I noticed it in 2019, my prep for USA. So as I was getting leaner, I had an Audi, and I never had an Audi. So I was, what is this? So I pushed it in and went right in. I was like, and it felt really weird. I was like, that's not normal. So I went and got checked out. They're like, yeah, you have a small hernia. It's not serious. You will have to get taken care of. So I was like, all right, cool. So when I heard that, I was like, I don't have to worry about it. So did the show. I was good. And it stayed small. It wasn't crazy noticeable. And then I competed again in 2020. And then it was very noticeable, like something in the prep, like it started protruding really, really bad after my shows. So then is when I had to get it taken care of. So I got it done in May 2021. And that's why I didn't compete. We thought about doing a show then, but it would have been rushed. My recovery was a little bit slower than I wanted it to be, but you know, it's an internal thing. Had to do what we had to do. So, and looking back at it, it's a blessing in disguise, because if I had competed last year, I would have done well. I mean, I know I wouldn't have done bad, but taking that time off and really, I've been able to push for a year and a half of eating. Now I'm much more confident in the package I'm going to put on stage next than maybe what I would have done in 2021. So, you know, looking back at it, blessing in disguise. So I'm happy it is where it is now. I have a belly button again, so now we'll be good on stage.
Is there, and I don't know, I honestly, I don't know this question, and I want to see if you know, but is there something that can be done, like preventative, Brandon, in terms of like a bodybuilder or people, power lifters, people that are lifting heavy weights? Is there something that can be done to maybe prevent the hernias? Like, is it just as simple as putting on a lifting belt, or is it just kind of like par for the course, so to speak?
So obviously I'm not a doctor, but in my opinion, do your core works, especially the transverse abdominis. So what I think happened to me, I had some slight knee and back issues for a medium amount of time. So I stopped deadlifting, I stopped squatting. And I hate to admit it, I do not work my abs how I should. So most of my ab work was from my deadlifts and my squats because of that hard contraction. That's what I got my core work from. And it also worked my transverse abdominis. So I stopped doing those for a couple of months. Then prep comes and I all of a sudden I have this hernia. So what I think happened is that lining got weak because I wasn't training it like I should have been. And that's how it popped right out. So in my opinion, really stay on your core work, and that's going to keep it stronger, and it's going to be less susceptible of that coming through. Is it going to completely prevent it? Have no idea. Like I said, I'm not a doctor, but I think it would help. I always wear a belt. I'm really big on a Valsalva maneuver. So keeping it tight might also help, but I don't know if the belt is going to be any kind of help towards a hernia per se. But for us bodybuilders, especially powerlifters, you're pushing that much with the Valsalva maneuver, it's always going to have a risk of it. So train your transverse abdominis, make sure that stays strong, and that might help, which I think is the timing with how mine happened. That's what I assume happened, but we don't know for sure.
Okay, cool. So what are your plans going forward in terms of competing? I'm assuming you're getting on stage this year. What competition are you aiming for? What's kind of the goal this year? And then what is kind of your long-term goal within competitive bodybuilding?
So as of right now, technically, I'm now less than 8 weeks out. I'm going to do USAs. So I'll be a super heavyweight at USAs. And then in terms of long-term goals for bodybuilding, if you would ask me this, a year ago, it's still the same, but this year it's to go pro. 1 year goal. 3-year goal is to be on the Olympia stage. 5-year goal is to be top 5 Olympia. So that's my goals.
Love it. Is that now when you set goals for yourself, is that something that you just keep in the back of your mind? Are you somebody that writes the goals down, has a vision board? Where are you at in terms of how you set up your goals for yourself?
So I've done both. I did a lot of the vision boards growing up. I do see benefits in doing seeing the vision board, because the more you see it, the more you think about it. And I'm very big of, thinking things into existence, something you want, you want to focus on it. You want to do that. So I'm really big on that, but I haven't done a vision board in a while. I just do a lot of thinking, especially like during cardio, right now. Just think about what I want to do, what my goal is, what I have to do to be where I want to be. The more I think about it, just the more hungry I get.
Yeah. The USAs this year, I've had quite a few guys on, that are going to be competing in the USAs. It's going to be a pretty competitive show, I think, right?
Good show. Very good show. I'm excited.
Yeah, I know it's good, man. It is exciting to be able to have some competitive competitions. Now, where are you at right now? You just brought up cardio. Where are you at kind of like with the cardio within this prep 8 weeks out? And how does that compare to maybe previous preps in terms of how much cardio you're doing or not doing?
So this will kind of go back on the importance of staying with a coach on the off season. So my prep for 2020 was an abrupt, technically 15, but a 16-week prep with Andrew. And we did great. I mean, we did okay. We got top 5 out of 22 guys. But honestly, if I look back at my progress pictures from like 8 weeks out then to now, I look like garbage then. Like I look terrible. Staying with him in all season and putting on the excess that I needed to and progressing that way has made this prep, I don't want to say easy, but it has been the smoothest prep I've ever had. 8 weeks out, I'm still doing just 40 minutes of cardio on the treadmill. Haven't stepped on the Stairmaster. Not really hungry. Like there's some days where I'm hungry. I'm still right around just a little under 5,000 calories. Woke up this morning at 269. Conditioning is where it needs to be. So honestly, everything is going as planned. I'm honestly ready for him to just drop the hammer because I'm ready for things to get hard. So I told him all I want is to be the most shredded super on the stage. That's my goal.
So where are you at with cardio then right now? Or are you doing any right now?
5 days a week, 40 minutes on the treadmill.
Okay, cool. Awesome.
And compared to others, my last prep, I was already on the stairs probably for an hour by now. So like I said, we're in a much better spot this year than we were in 2020.
Right. Awesome. So I want to take a step back in terms of like personal training, coaching for yourself personally. How do you feel like you've evolved, Brandon, over the years in terms of a personal trainer, in terms of a coach? Obviously when we get out of college, like anybody else and getting into a career, you're fresh, there's a lot to learn. But how do you feel like that evolution for you personally as a trainer, as a coach has evolved over the years? What are some of the things that you've learned about yourself, learned about people, learned about business?
One thing I learned about myself with personal training, as I'm sure you have as well, is patience. If you do not have patience, you do not want to be a personal trainer. So I've learned a bit. So like I said, I started personal training full on, we'll say, what was that? 2015. And from there, I have a NASM CPT. And from there, I learned based on my clientele. So the gym I was at was not all like competitors or anything like that. It was your everyday, just want to look good, feel good. Hey, I don't, I want to, decrease my weight. I have diabetes. So being with those lifestyle people helped me learn a lot more in terms of, because I'm all about, competitions, and that helped me just to learn a lot more. So doing that was able to help increase my knowledge for a lot of different circumstances. Where I'm at now is more of a hardcore bodybuilding gym, and I primarily in person, like I say, 50-50. Some compete, other ones just want to, like I said, look good, feel good. And the more of the competitors that I train, everybody's different. So I'm always, some kind of critiques somebody that I've never had to do to anybody else. So the more people you work with, obviously, the more you're going to learn. It's all about experience. So that's what's helped me in terms of gaining knowledge. It's been a lot of trial and error. Now with coaching, I didn't start online coaching until 2020. Because I told myself for a long time, I don't want to bridge that. I'm good. But eventually I was like, I kept getting people wanting me to do that. And eventually I was like, why not? I know it. And if I want to do it, start now, because as anything, I'm just going to get better and better as I go. So I started that in 2020. Yep. Maybe it's late 2019. I forget when exactly I first started. But from then, it's been going very, very well. I have, like I said, 50-50 people that compete and people that don't have any aspirations to compete. I'll help anybody. And then personal training, it's really the same thing, unless it's more corrective. I don't really mess with corrective exercising a lot, unless it's something that I've experienced, because I'm not gonna, bite off more than I can chew or anything like that. But that's been fun, and I'm still learning a lot more with the online coaching now that I've have actually competitors that I'm putting on stage. That's been fun as well.
How is that for you, Brandon? Like, being an athlete yourself and then prepping athletes. I mean, do you get a lot of fulfillment out of seeing a client who is an athlete succeed, whether they won or not? They maybe just stepped on stage for the first time. How is that for you personally? Is that very fulfilling for you to be able to train athletes and see them do and accomplish what they want?
It's very fulfilling. I think we all get into this kind of profession because we like helping people. It has its pros and cons, because I love helping people do this, but if they don't do well, or if I think they could be better, that's when it hits me. Because I'm a little bit of a perfectionist to that point. So if I know someone could have been better, I kind of beat myself up about it. But at the same time, it's a learning experience. So what do we do this time that I can do different next time to, so that they're better? So it's going to have your ebbs and flows. But like I said, it's a good journey. I love working with my clients, especially, first shows, seeing their excitement, and they love when they get on the stage, they love it. So sharing that passion, I love seeing that, because, we love it too.
Right, right. Okay, so stepping outside of bodybuilding, stepping outside of fitness, we all, you know, have some sort of life outside of bodybuilding, fitness, and everything. There's happenings going on. My point is outside of that world, right, that we're involved in. So for you, what's something maybe that you've learned over the last year or two, Brandon, that wasn't from bodybuilding or fitness or, you know, kind of being in the gym specifically? Is there anything that when I ask that kind of pops up in your mind, like, man, this is a life lesson. This is something that I've learned outside of the fitness realm?
Man, that's a good question. Because I live in the gym.
I know I get it. It is a tough question. I don't know if I could answer that myself, but
The thing with it's related to the gym, but it's the people. So I have a very small circle of people that mean a lot to me. And a lot of them are affiliated with the gym. And it's always about who you surround yourself with in terms of, I always like the saying, if you hang out with four poor guys, you're going to be the fifth. Same thing as if you hang out with four, rich people, you'll be the fifth. So it's all about, birds of a feather flock together. And being around the people that are in the gym, they are very business minded in terms of the gym that I am affiliated with. We do bodybuilding shows, we do powerlifting events, we do a lot. It's not just a gym. So there's a lot of just business stuff happening, and seeing that and how hard they work and the discipline that they have to do, because they're just busy 24/7. And, I'm there with them, and seeing that and helping them is just shows that where you start, which could be so small, if you just have a vision and you work really, really hard, you can be really wherever you want to be. I know it's very vague, but seeing the things, around the people that I'm around now, and seeing how successful that they can be and that I am, just lets me know that if you have a vision and you work towards that vision and you don't give up, you can literally do whatever you want. Like I said, I know it sounds cliche, but it's 100%, in my opinion, true.
yeah, no, that's awesome, man. So in terms of business for yourself, do you have, just like your bodybuilding goals, what's kind of your goal, whether that's short or long-term in terms of business for you? Do you want to open up your own gym? Do you want to, what is it that is that vision for you for your business?
Growing up, I did want to own my own gym. But as of right now, that is not on top of my to-do list. Right now, your bodybuilding is, really a lot of my life. Me and my girlfriend, we really don't do much, and it's my fault because, I'm always on, even all season, we didn't really go out to eat because unless I had a cheat meal. So it definitely instills a lot, but it's about finding a little bit of the balance, outside of that. So doing that is harder than I want it to be, but I love this sport as she does. She also competes as well. So, have somebody that knows that helps out a lot as well, for sure.
So let's, we're going to kind of start heading towards the finish line here. I want to bring up social media just here for a minute, because obviously we live in a social media world. How do you utilize social media in terms of business? How do you approach it in terms of being an athlete? I mean, are you on there, checking out people that are going to be competing in the USAs? Are you just kind of like going on, posting, getting off? What's your philosophy? What's your approach with social media?
So I like social media. I only have Instagram because of bodybuilding. So when I got my Instagram, I was like, this is strictly for bodybuilding, and this is where I'm going to post my updates, yada, yada, yada. And obviously social media has turned into a lot more than it was, 10, 15 years from then. So social media is a lot. I'm on my Instagram every day. I post now basically every day, but I don't try to get too into it. I have my friends and I watch them, even guys, that are competing, USAs, I see them, talk to them. They're great guys. We're friends. So I don't get into my head too much about it. But, business wise, it's great. I get exposure from posting. I don't post that much right now because I'm in the gym all the time and it's insanely loud in there, but I'm getting ready to take a step away from that And then that's gonna open up more time for me to be active on social media because, you know, you can be a great bodybuilder. You got to have the physique for it, obviously, the work ethic, everything. But in today's day and time, you have to have a good social media attached to you if you really want to be successful. So I have to also keep up with that, in which I'm going to start doing a little bit more. Might do some YouTube when I find some time to do that. But for me, it's just going to be posting more on Instagram, you know, more stories and stuff like that. Be more interactive because I've been a lot more interactive before. In the past year, I haven't. So I want to increase that a little bit more as well.
What do you, let's talk about, just like once you, finish up USAs this year, do you have like a game plan, you know, when you turn pro at USAs, or if you don't, what's kind of your game plan moving forward? Or are you just 100% focused on USAs?
Right now, 100% focus on USAs. You know, after USAs, then we'll talk about what's next. You know, say, you know, if I win, then me and Andrew are like, hey, we're ready to jump into a pro show and just to get our feet wet, because with the progress that I've made, I'd be confident on getting on a pro stage and seeing where I stand. But that's obviously what I want to do. So that would be my goal. Obviously, we're going to talk, you know, with Andrew, and he's going to see, you know, what we want to do, because he's going to help with that decision, obviously. So that's right now, USA's is the main goal, and that's it.
Cool. Advice to yourself, younger self, or maybe somebody that's listening or watching that's just getting into bodybuilding, they're fresh into lifting weights. Any advice for, you know, yourself as a younger person, or anybody listening or watching that's younger, getting into bodybuilding, that maybe something that you know now that you wish you would have known when you were younger?
We've already tapped on it a little bit, but it's the training techniques, as wish I would have been instilled a lot younger versus, you know, throwing the weight around. So that's one thing that I would give younger generation advice, or myself, would be to don't worry about the weight, worry about the function execution. That's going to be where you're going to see the most progress. Because if I would have had that information, who knows, I might have a better, you know, physique now. And then if, you know, younger guys, they're very serious about being in bodybuilding and being better, it's just be consistent, have willpower, be disciplined. If it's really not that hard, if they want to be where they want to be. It all comes down to how bad they want it. If they don't want it that bad, they're going to go on the weekends, they're going to drink, you know, they're going to miss meals, they're going to do that. But being consistent and staying on is going to be where they see the progress, whether that's, you know, by themselves, whether that's them getting a coach. Like I said, that's what I would recommend. I think anybody would, just to help them have some kind of guidance. So it's harder if you want to throw mud at the wall and see what sticks, versus having a plan that you have some guidance that's going to help you go along the way.
All right. Fun question here. What's a couple of your biggest gym pet peeves?
Oh God. Oh man. We can do a whole podcast on this.
You probably got 100 of them, right?
The gym I'm at is a very big gym. It's very popular. And the tripods, man, they kill me. Everybody wants to be in the busiest sections recording themselves. Like, I get it. You want to have your content, but it's just the whole TikTok thing these days. It doesn't make any sense. You know, that's one of my big pet peeves, is the whole TikTok real recording things in the gym. Other than that, it's going to be your normal, you know, these guys, people that don't rack their weights, people that don't have a zero gym etiquette. For some reason, people want to go into the gym and they smell terrible. I don't know how they don't notice that, but unfortunately you have that as well. But those are just a couple of mine.
All right. Yeah, man. It was funny. I was watching a Brett Wilkin training video down in at the Revive gym here just earlier today, and in the background I could see that there was like 3 or 4 girls. Like, one had her tripod, another one was trying to set up her tripod. I'm like, the gym that I own, we're in a small town in Iowa, less than 5,000 people. We don't have, thank God, we don't have any of that. I wouldn't even allow it, but it would drive me nuts, man. Like, I've heard like Jose Raymond talking about the gym that his buddy opened up out there in Boston. He's like, he's doing like walking lunges and he's just like got to kick over like tripods. Like I wouldn't have it, man. I'd be like, it's not going to happen here, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. It's obnoxious. And like literally we'll have like a crew of like 5 to 10 kids, same hairdo, dangly earrings, got the tripod set up. I'm like, oh man, here we go. But it is what it is. It's good they're in the gym working out, but which was, for different reasons other than the IG and or TikTok clout. Right. But it is the world we live in.
It is, man. It's a changing, ever-changing world. All right. Last question I've got for you, Brandon, then I'll kind of give you the floor to kind of close us out in terms of any final thoughts, words, shout outs. What do you feel like bodybuilding has given you, or what do you feel like bodybuilding has taught you?
Bodybuilding has definitely taught me a lot. So since I've been competing since 21, basically it's instilled discipline, consistency, and willpower that has also went into my businesses, my relationships. Just the work ethic has helped me with everything, and just being disciplined. When I see, especially with coaching, how many people can't be disciplined or be consistent, it's kind of alarming. So me knowing that me being bodybuilding and knowing that I have to do this to be successful, it's instilled that in me, and then has also been able to help me in other aspects of my life. That's what, I guess I can appreciate bodybuilding for the most, other than, building a decent physique per se. But definitely without bodybuilding, don't know where I would be. Or it'd be an interesting question to see for sure.
All right. I got one more fun question. I got to throw this in here. When you earn your IFBB Pro card, whenever that is, who are a couple of guys that you would like to step on stage with as a pro and compete against?
Oh man, definitely Hunter and Brett. Me and Hunter, like he's a good dude. We chat, and me and Brett, we recently met. He's a really good guy. We worked out at one of the events here recently, and really good guys. And they're some of the best. And I definitely want to be on stage beside of them in the near future. As we know, Hunter's top 5 Olympian, so I plan on being up there in the near future.
How about would you like to get another crack at Nick Walker?
Absolutely. Again, another top 5 Olympian. So I definitely can't wait to be standing against beside of him on stage.
Cool, man. Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I'm sure being able to get another shot at Zach Merkel. He came on the podcast, super cool guy as well. So
he is actually cool. I like him a lot.
Yeah, that'll be fun, man. I know some of the other guys that I brought on, just asking them that question. It's always like, man, like some of those guys that have beat them in the past, it's like, I want to step on a pro stage and be able to get after them, as an IFBB pro. So Brandon, first of all, I just want to say thank you, man, for coming on, sharing a little bit of your story, giving us a little insights into your bodybuilding experience. Before I do the outro, if you have any final thoughts, any final words, any shout outs, any sponsor shout outs, anything like that, man, the platform is yours, and I'll do the outro and that'll be a wrap.
No, I appreciate it, man. I'm just a little NPC competitor, so I appreciate you having me on. This was fun. I haven't done a podcast like this that, has whatever my background in life. So this was fun. Only thing I have to say is the guys that are going to USA, just be ready.
There we go, man. Short, sweet, and to the point, right? Love it, man. So all of you who are tuning into another episode of Behind the Muscle podcast, I just want to say thank you to you. If it wasn't for all of you, the podcast wouldn't exist. I just thank you. I appreciate you. A couple of quick things as we wrap up this awesome conversation with Brandon today. If you would please hit that subscribe button on YouTube. That's really important because I release all these episodes first on YouTube, and then I distribute them to iTunes and the other podcast platforms. Also, take this episode with Brandon, share it on your Instagram stories. Make sure you tag Brandon, tag Behind the Muscle, so that we know that you listened specifically to this episode and you found great value in it, which I know you did. When you guys share these episodes on Instagram, it's also a great way for more people to find the podcast, more people to listen to the podcast, and more people are going to be positively impacted through these athletes and coaches' stories through Behind the Muscle. So please make sure you share, you tag Behind the Muscle, tag Brian. again, that's just a great way for us and everybody to know that you're finding value in the podcast and for other people to find it. And then finally, I will leave you all with this. Remember, behind the muscle, there's always a story. We'll catch you guys later.